Ok. Dobro večer još jednom. Imali smo mali prekid, vraćamo se. Dakle, pozdrav svima i hvala vam što ste odvojili vrijeme za ovo druženje. Pozdrav svima koji nas pratite preko Facebooka. Nastavljamo s drugim poglavljem Bhagavad Gita. Ovo je drugo predavanje i budući da imam goste koji ne govore hrvatski, čitat ću na hrvatskom, a komentirati ću ili predavati ću na engleskom jeziku. Pokušati, nadam se da će to biti ok. Nekom zvone telefoni, stišajte, molim vas. Briefly, I will make overview of last discussion. Arjuna, although born and raised in a Vedic spiritual culture, is facing great difficulty. And it seems that this difficulty is created because of lack of knowledge. Many times we repeated that Arjuna is not ordinary living being. He is liberated soul. He's eternal associate of Lord Krishna, but he plays the role of ordinary living being. And we can say that while we are inhabiting material body, it's always tendency to act on material platform. So it was case also for Arjuna. Being exposed to very, very extraordinary situation. It's just situation just before war, and not ordinary war. It's a war in which he has to fight against his friends, relatives, etc. He gave very strong arguments why he shouldn't participate in this war. And we discussed that these arguments were really noble arguments. On the platform of very conscious man, but in relationship to the spiritual knowledge, his arguments were very much, bereft of spiritual knowledge, spiritual understanding. And this position makes him even more confused. So in that situation, he made a conscious effort and decision to change relationship with Krishna. So he has become his disciple. And we discussed that all of a sudden, whole relationship changed, and we read beautiful commentary in which Srila Prabhupada explained what is the main challenge of living being. And he mentioned that this is facing the problems of life. That means that we have to face the situation that we are becoming sick, we are becoming old, and eventually we die. That means we are leaving this body. And although Arjuna's arguments were connected with the whole future of generations of humans of that time, his main argument was that because families will not have support and maintainer, and kids will not have a father as a role model, whole society will be ruined. And that was one of the arguments. Another argument, I don't want happiness on the cost of someone's suffering and eventually death, which was the situation before the war. And then, hearing these arguments, Krishna told him, although you are talking as a learned man, actually you have a very specific deficiency, and this is deficiency of knowledge. And we discussed what does it mean. We explained that since, especially in now modern time, we are not in shortage of informations, and especially in Western world, education is available practically for everyone who wants it. Higher education also. And although we have so many educational institutions which can offer higher education. And although we have so many highly educated people, we didn't solve the problems of life. It seems that we are creating more and more problems in life. Trying to somehow reduce the problems, we are creating new problems. And this is an example of how we can see that materialistic knowledge, or we cannot say like this, maybe knowledge which is not supported also with the spiritual understanding cannot solve the problems of humanity. And in that sense, our situation is similar to Arjuna's situations. He had his own battles to fight. We have our own battles to fight. Maybe our battles are not so intense and big as Arjuna had, but there are still very intense situations in life which we have to face and somehow find the solution. And now we are coming to the part of the Bhagavad Gita which is in many ways fundamental, because Krishna will establish the basis of spiritual knowledge, explaining the difference between spiritual and material. And often we discuss that both aspects of life, that means what we can call apparent aspect of life, that means physical manifestation, and metaphysical, they come from the same source. And I always give this wonderful example, I guess it's Prabhupada's disciple, that the cooling effect and heating effect can come from the electricity. We can have the kind of instrument or tool which can heat or cool, and both are coming from the same source. I plug it here in the source of electricity, and then if I switch to one side, it will bring warmth to the room. If I switch to another side, it will bring coolness to the room. So same source is cooling and heating. In the same way, same source which comes from God creates physical reality and metaphysical reality. And in that sense, everything is spiritual, but according to the consciousness of living being, we see world as a physical manifestation, or we can have insights to spiritual manifestation. And now the beginning of understanding spiritual, it's to discriminate how something becomes spiritual and how something becomes material. And now we are coming to the part where Krishna starts to educate Arjuna, and consequently everyone who listens this class also becomes educated. So we are also Krishna students, we can say like this. So I will read now in Croatian. This is second chapter, verse number 10, from number 10 onwards. O potomče Bharate, stojeći između dvije vojske, Krishna je smiješeći se rekao ove riječi o žalošćenom Arjuni. Ovo govori Sanjaya. These are words of Sanjaya, Vyasadev's student, who is reporting to old King Dhritarashtra what's going on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Svevišnja božanska osoba reče, dok govoriš učene riječi, jadikuješ za onim što nije vrijedno žaljenja. Mudri ljudi ne žale ni za živim, ni za mrtvim. Gospodin je odmah preuzeo položaj učitelja i izgrdio učenika, posebno ga nazivajući budalom. Gospodin je rekao, govoriš kao učen čovjek, ali ne znaš da mudra osoba koja zna što je tijelo, a što duša, ne jadikuje ni zbog jednog stanja tijela, ni živog ni mrtvog. Kao što će biti objašnjeno u idućim poglavljima, imati znanje znači poznavati materiju i duh i njihova upravitelja. Arjuna je izjavio da se religijskim načelima treba pridati veća važnost nego li politici i sociologiji, ali nije znao da je znanje o materiji, duši i svevišnjem još važnije od religijskih pravila. To mu je znanje nedostajalo i zato se nije trebao predstavljati kao vrlo učen čovjek. Budući da nije bio vrlo mudar, jadikovao je za nečim što nije bilo vrijedno žaljenja. Tijelo se rađa i po svom usudu danas ili sutra umire. Stoga nije tako važno kao duša. Onaj tko to zna istinski učen. On ne vidi razloga za jadikovanje bez obzira na stanje materijalnog tijela. Dalje Krišna kaže, nikada nije bilo vremena da ja nisam postojao, ni ti, ni svi ovi kraljevi, niti će u budućnosti itko od nas prestati postojati. U Vedama, u Kata Upanišadi i Švetašvatara Upanišadi rečeno je da svevišnja božanska osoba održava bezbrojna živa bića u njihovim različitim položajima koja su stekla vlastitim djelovanjem. Ta svevišnja božanska osoba u obliku svojih djelomičnih ekspanzija živi u srcu svakog živog bića. Samo sve te osobe koje u sebi i izvan sebe vide istog svevišnjeg gospodina mogu dostići savršen vječan mir. Nityo nityanam četanas četananam eko bahunam jo vidadati kaman i tako dalje. To je Kata Upanišada 2.2.13. Prabhupada citira Kata Upanišadu, dakle druge vedske tekstove kako bi potvrdio ove izjave Krišne. Ista vedska istina koja je otkrivena Arjuni, otkrivena je svim osobama u svijetu koje se predstavljaju kao vrlo učene, ali u stvari imaju samo siromašno znanje. Gospodin jasno kaže da su on sam, Arjuna i svi kraljevi nazočni na bojnom polju vječne osobe i da Gospodin vječno održava osobna živa bića u njihovu uvjetovanu i oslobođenu stanju. Svevišnja božanska osoba je vrhovna osoba, a Arjuna, Gospodinov vječni pratilac i svi nazočni kraljevi individualno su vječna bića. Postojali su kao osobe u prošlosti i zauvijek će ostati osobe. Njihova je osobnost postojala u prošlosti i nastavit će postojati u budućnosti bez prekida. Stoga nema razloga za žaljenje nad bilo kim. Gospodin Krišna, vrhovni autoritet, ovdje ne podržava teoriju Majavade da se duhovna duša odvojena prekrivačem iluzije nakon oslobođenja stapa s neosobnim brahmanom i gubi osobno postojanje, niti podržava teoriju da se osobnost doživljava samo u uvjetovanom stanju. Krišna u ovom stihu jasno kaže da će Gospodin i drugi u budućnosti vječno zadržati svoju osobnost. To je potvrđeno u Upanišadama. Krišna je izjava mjerodavna jer Krišna ne može biti podložan iluziji. Kada osobnost ne bi bila činjenica, Krišna je ne bi toliko naglašavao čak i za budućnost. So this were the text 11 and 12. And now we will comment a little bit and then we will continue to read. So first instruction which Krishna has given to Arjuna is that wise person who has knowledge doesn't lament neither for those who are alive nor for the death of other living beings. Of course, when we perceive life only through the perspective of our temporary situation in which we are now, not seeing this, what is explained in this verse, that we had existence in different bodies before and that we will have existence in the future, it sounds like unacceptable, almost as unacceptable. And we can even comment Krishna's words as non-empathic, in the sense that he doesn't care for those who are trying to survive and for those who are dying. But it's not like that. And this is the main problem of, or first problem to understand spirituality. Srila Prabhupada explains in the comment that Arjuna has given religious arguments, but then he explained that knowledge which Krishna is going to explain to him is higher than that, because its religious arguments are also dealing with our temporary situations. But knowledge which will Krishna give to Arjuna is universal and is eternal. This is very important. So when Krishna explains these truths, that we had life before and that we will have life in the future, that doesn't mean that he is not aware of the sufferings and struggles of living beings. But he's trying to direct Arjuna's attention to the most important reason why we are experiencing suffering at all. And it will be explained very soon in next verse, next text. Krishna will start to explain that all of us, we are changing body even in this lifetime. And the main reason why we experience suffering is because we become attached to our situation, our temporary situation. And I think the greatest challenge for, or I can say, I feel and I experience the greatest challenge for any human being is how to make balance between striving for something so exalted as spiritual perfection and in the same time be, at least normal human being. I have a colleague and friend who many years ago has given class with the title externally ordinary, internally extraordinary, or externally usual, internally unusual. And he was explaining how spiritual knowledge and spiritual life doesn't mean that we become superficially, outwardly different than other people. But it means that we change the understanding of what is life and motivation why we are doing things in this world. And Srila Prabhupada mentioned 2 times in last comment that spiritual knowledge means to understand nature and our original position in relationship to God, and to understand God, how God maintains everyone, even in the situation of conditioned life and in the situation of liberated life. So this is very, very important thing. And now we will read more, some more points of knowledge or wisdom which Krishna will give to Arjuna. Kao što utjelovljena duša u ovom tijelu prolazi kroz dječaštvo, mladost i starost, tako u trenutku smrti prelazi u drugo tijelo. Razboritu osobu ne zbunjuje takva promjena. O Kuntin sine, nestalno pojavljivanje sreće i nesreće, te njihovo iščezavanje s vremenom nalikuje dolasku i odlasku ljeta i zime. Oni potječu od osjetilnog opažanja, a potom će barate i osoba mora naučiti podnositi ih bez uznemirenja. These were texts 13 and 14. So in these 2 verses, Krishna explains the nature of living being, explaining that each of us are changing body in one lifetime, and in a similar way we are changing body after this body becomes unuseful, we can say like this. This situation we called death or transmigration of the soul. And this is very important to understand. I will try to explain this with the different examples. Usually we perceive ourselves and each other through our social identity. This social identity is connected with body in which we are. So we see each other as man, woman, as white, black, as a certain occupation which we are doing, certain roles which we are playing in this world. Someone is parent, we are all kids, we are all children of someone, But some of us are also parents. We also have our occupation or profession. We have our, political position in life or sociological position in life, certain beliefs or certain conditions through which we are perceiving the world and ourselves. And this is basically how we operate in this world. And this is exactly mentioned in the second text which I read. All this apparently comes from sensual perception. So this is one part of our identity. We can call it our social identity, with the different roles which we are playing through this social identity. But through the spiritual knowledge of Vedas, we learn that and I have to mention that this identity is temporary identity. Even in this lifetime, we are changing the roles, and some are becoming past which will never repeat. Just gone. We will never be kids anymore. And as kids, we had certain roles and understanding of ourselves and our friends and our surrounding, but this will never repeat in this lifetime. It's forever gone. So many such positions or roles will change like this. We have been students in primary school, secondary school or university, and this is also forever gone in this lifetime. So certain roles are already past. It will never repeat, at least not in this life. Maybe in some other incarnation we will go through the same process, but right now it's gone. It's not anymore our reality. So similarly, we can understand that these were temporary roles, and whole our existence in this body is temporary. It lasts for some time, but our real identity is spiritual and lasts forever. So the basic point of spiritual knowledge which Arjuna is learning now, that our real identity is that we are eternal spiritual being, which is full of knowledge, full of eternity, knowledge and bliss. This is three characteristics by which we can describe eternal living being, Atma, Jiva Atma. And unfortunately, because of the lack of knowledge, we just don't understand this. It's a problem. So we may be highly educated, we can have like university degree, but if we don't have this knowledge, we cannot solve the problems of life. And another problem is that, which we often discuss here, that because of this identification with the body, and that means that through the body or through the instruments of body, which are the senses, 5 senses for receiving the knowledge and 5 senses for acting, we are communicating with our surrounding, with this reality in which we are. And this situation creates our understanding of ourselves and everyone else. And this we call, not we, but Vedas, this called conditioned life of the living being. So liberated state of consciousness means that we come to our original position, understanding ourselves as an eternal part of spiritual reality, which has source in Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is in Vedas described with the word Krishna, which means all attractive one, or Bhagavan, one who possesses all opulences. And these opulences are listed like all beauty, all power, all knowledge, all renunciation. I forgot English terms.
Strength.
I know. What?
Strength.
Strength.
And renunciation.
I said renunciation. Something else. Power, beauty. all beauty. That means all attractive. So Krishna's interest is not to manipulate Arjuna to act in a way to fulfill his own desire. No, Krishna's main mission is to elevate his friend who has become his student to the higher consciousness, because this is the only way how we can solve the problems of life. As we said, Sanjaya, although contemporary of Arjuna, living in the same time, in the same place, was not involved in war. And therefore Krishna didn't educate Sanjaya in this wisdom and trying to inspire him to use all skills and faculties which he has to fight against Kauravas. No, he educated Arjuna because Arjuna had adhikara. Adhikara means qualifications and competence to serve this purpose. And after all, it was his duty because he was king. And king's duty is to protect not just principles of dharma, of righteousness, but also to protect all living beings. And we described that Duryodhana and his group, they were exploiting position of superiority by power, by influence, etc. They were also kshatriyas. Kshatraya, that means those who are protecting from the hurt, from the wounds or whatever. So that means kshatriyas are protectors. Duryodhana was unfortunately contaminated with a false identification. I am this body, I am big king, I am the ruler, I am the enjoyer, etc. And he exploited this position. And Arjuna and his brothers, they were instruments of dharma. They were righteous people. They were people of amazing qualities. And Krishna relied on them to protect whole civilization practically. And this is the reason why Krishna instructed Arjuna to act, to fulfill his duty, but with the higher consciousness, with the spiritual consciousness. And this second chapter, it's actually Sankhya Yoga, yoga of understanding the all aspects of creation and how we fit in that. So the main problem is that being in a situation of not having this knowledge, Duryodhana and his group, they acted in a materialistic way, trying to fulfill the main purpose of existence, that means to enjoy through sense gratification. That means through materialistic view on the world. And now Arjuna will understand that fortune or pleasure cannot be satisfied or cannot be achieved acting on the material platform. Because acting on material platform means that we will experience life in a way that sometimes we will be happy, sometimes unhappy. And these changes are actually a result of sensual perception of life. For example, today is raining, and someone who had plans to do something outside, such a person can be frustrated. But for someone who has some work to do, like intellectual work, like reading or studying, this day is perfect for this activity. You just cancel all of your plans for outside, and you have good reason to stay at home and just study or do some intellectual work. So same situation we perceive in different ways. Recently we were listening to Satyananda Swami, who was explaining the story of two twin brothers, who had very bad childhood. They had a father who was irresponsible, always drinking, being violent, and etc. And one has become same as a father, and one has become completely opposite, has become never taking alcohol, never being violent towards others. And someone asked both of them, so why you are like that? And then one who is bad, he said, I had father like this and this and this, I had such a childhood, so what else I can be? Another one said, so I had father like this and that, I had such a childhood, so what else I can be? They had same answer. They had been in same situation, but they choose different lives. So it's point of perceiving reality through the different vision, and spiritual knowledge serves to the purpose of seeing reality with the different eyes, with a different vision. Yeah, Igor.
I'm just wondering about what is like this, because
why is like this?
Why is like this? But I'm thinking maybe they have a different adhikari from the past life.
Yeah.
And that was the main reason why they act differently.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you cannot explain like why they did.
Yeah, of course we can say like this. Igor said that he was asking himself why they had such an opposite view of life, and probably they had different adhikara. That means different background from past life. Someone was more pious, and he brings this to this life. Another one was not so pious, and he brings that. But point is that even without this, different situations in life, and they are all the time here. Different, we can call them challenges. They're all the time here. We have practically on the daily basis our Kurukshetras. How we will react, it will create our future. And even if we put aside what was our background in past life, when we receive spiritual knowledge, we become empowered by a special tool by which we can use certain situations for our growth all the time. Even the worst situation. I often give the example of Viktor Frankl, famous psychotherapist who was imprisoned in Auschwitz during the Second World War. It's horrible. We read about this, we watched movies about this, documentary and different other movies, and we know how horrible situation it was. But somehow, even from this impossible situation, he found a way how to grow from this situation, not to become in a mood of victim, although objectively he was a victim, and all these people were victims. But when we perceive situations in lives through the spiritual knowledge, then we can understand that practically every situation in which we are, no matter how bad it is, we can use this situation for higher consciousness, for arising to the higher consciousness, and we can use this situation for our benefit. We can say like this. From growth, yeah. And this is main point. And another thing which we can learn from spiritual knowledge, that situations which we don't like, in which we are created by us. They are not created by others. And this requires to understand this, it requires to receive spiritual knowledge, to understand spiritual knowledge. Because otherwise, if we see our lives, or life of any living being in this world, just from the perspective of one of existence, from our birth to our death, there is no logic. There is no logic which can explain, as you said, why someone is in better position, someone is in worse position. Only spiritual knowledge can explain this. And I will go a little bit back to the first point, when I explained how we can, when we hear such statements which are given here, that wise person don't lament, neither for those who are alive or those who are dead, how it can be understood as a non-empathic statement. But we are actually very much concerned to situation of I and mine, but every day so many living beings, humans and others, are going to the end every day. Today, so many people in Ukraine are killed, or some other places in the world. So many cows, chicken, pigs are killed today, and we are not concerned about this. We live our lives, But when it's happening to us, then we are very much concerned. Oh, how people are not concerned about my suffering, How everyone is, cruel and not empathic to my suffering. This is the tendency of living being. But spiritual knowledge gives us much broader perspective, that we start to be concerned about every living being. And we can understand and learn how our dealings amongst each other, amongst other species, can create chaos and suffering, and can create liberation for a spiritual being. We can understand how we can live life which cannot bring just prosperity to us, but also which can bring prosperity to other living beings. This is the nobility of spiritual life. So, the next verse is text number 15. O najbolji među ljudima, Arjuna, onaj tko nije uznemiren srećom i nesrećom, tko je postojan i u sreći i u nesreći, dostojan je oslobođenja. Oni koji su vidjeli istinu zaključili su da nepostojeće materijalno tijelo nije trajno i da vječno postojeća duša nije podložna promjeni. To su zaključili proučavajući prirodu jednog i drugog. Promjenjivo tijelo nije trajno. Suvremena medicinska znanost priznaje da se tijelo mijenja svakog trenutka među djelovanjem različitih stanica. Tijelo raste i stari, ali duhovna duša uvijek postoji i ostaje ista, unatoč svim promjenama tijela i uma. To je razlika između materije i duha. Po prirodi tijelo se uvijek mijenja, ali duša je vječna. To su zaključili, taj su zaključak potvrdili svi oni koji su vidjeli istinu, i impersonalisti i personalisti. U Višnu Purani 2.12.38 rečeno je da su Višnu i sva njegova prebivališta samo obasjane duhovne prirode. Jyotim Svishnur Bhavanani Višnu. Riječi postojeće i nepostojeće odnose se samo na duh i materiju. To je mišljenje svih osoba koje su vidjeli istinu. Ovo je početak naučavanja koje Gospodin prenosi živim bićima zbunjenim utjecajem neznanja. Raspršivanje neznanja podrazumijeva ponovno uspostavljanje vječna odnosa između obožavatelja i obožavanog, te razumijevanja razlike između svih živih bića. Svih živih bića, Gospodinovih sastavnih djelića i svevišnje božanske osobe. Još jednom. Raspršivanje neznanja podrazumijeva ponovno uspostavljanje vječna odnosa između obožavatelja i obožavanog, te razumijevanje razlike između svih živih bića. gospodinovih sastavnih dijelića i središnje božanske osobe. Prirodu središnjeg možemo shvatiti pomnim proučavanjem vlastita bića i razumijevanjem razlike između sebe i središnjeg kao dijela i cjeline. U Vedanta sutri, kao i Šrimad Bhagavatamu, središnji se prihvaća kao izvor svih emanacija. Takve se emanacije opažaju kao viša i niža priroda. Živo biće pripada višoj prirodi, kao što će biti otkriveno u 7. poglavlju. Premda nema razlike između energije i energetika, smatra se da je energetik središnji, a energija ili priroda podređena. Živo su biće stoga uvijek podređena središnjem gospodinu, kao što je sluga podređen gospodaru ili učenik učitelju. Takvo jasno znanje ne može se shvatiti pod opsjenom neznanja. Da bi raspršio neznanje, gospodin objašnjava Bhagavad Gitu kako bi prosvjetlio sva živa bića za sva vremena. So in this text, Krishna explains how non-existing body is temporary and existing living being is eternal. What does it mean? Can we say that we are not existing? No. That means that this body is lost for some time. And it will never come again in the same way. And Prabhupada quotes the medical science, which explains that our body is changing all the time. And we experience these changes through our visual outlook. Sometimes we are small and then we are growing and then we become reduced again. And we change the physiognomy and we change in many ways. We don't look the same. And in one moment we will become dust. This body will become, just dust. Some bones will stay for a little while, but rest will be completely dissolved. And this is the nature of temporary. Nature of eternal is not changing. And we can say that although both are, as I said, manifestation of spiritual energy, one manifestation acts in that way and one in that way. So spiritual knowledge helps us to become, to come to the knowledge or understanding how it works, and also spiritual knowledge, which includes also different spiritual practices, helps us to come to that stage of consciousness that even when we are residing in these bodies, we become conscious of our difference from the body. And it's such an amazing platform of relief. And as we said, liberation. We become liberated from wrong understanding. And when we understand what's our real position, then we can use all the tools which we have to act for our eternal benefit. And as was mentioned in two texts before, Prabhupada in comments mentioned that by coming to the spiritual platform, we don't use identity. We don't become merged to some, collective spiritual energy. Our individuality is always there. And why it's important? Because, as I said, the main, the main need or propensity of spiritual living being is to always be in a consciousness of bliss or enjoyment. And this enjoyment and bliss is derived from a loving relationship between living being and God. So preliminary platform or spiritual understanding is to understand that we are different than body and that we are different than matter. Then second level of understanding is that we understand that behind everything there is a creator with whom we have eternal relationship. And even higher understanding is Bhakti, which means that we start to act in that, consciously in that relationship. Not just that we use God's presence in our life, but we exchange, we give. It's not just using, but it's also giving. And this is actually, we can say that these are the sections of spiritual knowledge. Sambandha means, Sambandha Jnana or Sambandha knowledge means to understand what we are, what's our real position, and who is God. Abhideya means that we understand the process by which we can connect to be always conscious of this relationship. And Prayojana Jnana or knowledge means, Prayojana means ultimate need or ultimate purpose is to live actively this loving relationship. And also it's very important to understand that there is only one God. This is very, it has to be clearly explained that it's not that every religion has different God. We have different approaches to Supreme Personality of Godhead, but it's only one. Always it's only one. And according to our psychophysical conditions, we find the different ways which are more appropriate for us to connect with Him, but it's always one. This is very, very important to understand. So, as Srila Prabhupada explains in this last text which we read, this is 16, Krishna starts to explain the main difference between spiritual and material. And then he continues, treba znati da ono što prožima cijelo tijelo neuništivo. Nitko ne može uništiti neuništivu dušu. In this verse and purport, Prabhupada again is quoting different Upanishads and Puranas to confirm this statement of Krishna. And he explains that we cannot understand soul or our eternal being, ourselves, through the medium of senses. It's not possible. So we cannot see Atma, we cannot hear, we cannot taste, we cannot touch, we cannot smell Atma. But we can understand Atma through the knowledge. And there is this, special term in Bhagavad Purana, which says, seeing to the medium of Shastra or knowledge. That means that we learn through understanding, and Prabhupada explains that first symptom of Atma is consciousness. So when Atma is not present in the body, body is unconscious. So we can say that the time of death means that living being leaves the body and body becomes unconscious. We have also the episodes during the day when we become a little unconscious during the time of sleep or dreams, whatever. When we are sleeping, we are not aware of reality, but Atma is still present in the body. But when we die, Atma is not anymore present in the body, and therefore body starts to deteriorate. I think that's the English. decomposed. Yeah. Body starts to become dust. That's the way how it functions. So, as I said before, this understanding gives such a bright perspective of life. Because all the fears which we are experiencing are generated from this fear of death. Why? Because being identified with the body, or maybe I will, it's better to formulate like this. Intuitively, we are aware of our eternal existence. But identifying with the body, which is temporary, we start to believe that by the end of existence of the body will be our end of existence. And this is very, very, very intense situation for every one of us. And this is the reason why we have a fear of that. Another fear comes from the unknown or eventual pains which we will need to face during the time of death. But when we understand that we are eternal, and that also when you go for dentist intervention, it's also sometimes painful, but you don't stop to exist because of this pain. Or when you break the hand or leg or whatever, it's painful, but this pain will not bring end of existence. So in the same way, we can understand that the end of existence of the body and pains which are coming with that will not also bring stop to our existence. And this is really a very hopeful situation. And also understanding of this, and especially when we understand how we can, when we learn what are the disciplines or exercises by which we can live always on that level of consciousness, then we change the priorities in life. Our main priority is always pleasure. But because of the lack of knowledge, we believe that pleasure will come from sense pleasures. And therefore we are investing all our energy in that direction. But by experience, by now, we can understand that it's not like that. That pleasure, it's not equivalent to the everlasting joy or pleasure. Sense pleasure is giving pleasure for some time, but real happiness or real joy comes when we are connected to the source of all joy or all happiness or all pleasure. This is God. And this connection is the most easiest way to make this connection is through loving surrender, we can say like this, through devotional service, to devotion, to real love. And to love someone, we need to know someone. And also through learning spiritual knowledge, we are also become educated about form, qualities, and activities of Supreme Personality of Godhead, which are all attractive also, because He is absolute. And in that way, we can become easily attracted. And this is the way how Arjuna received spiritual knowledge, and this is the way of Bhakti, we can say, or path of Bhakti. So we will stop here, and next Tuesday we are continuing from the 18th text of 2nd chapter. If there is any question, please, or comment, please free to participate. Yeah.
Thank you, Sundarananda, for your deep commentary on the commentaries. There was one section where it says that, I don't know where it is now, it says that in order to become liberated, one has the knowledge and devotion pairs together, and that liberates the soul.
Yeah.
And then it also says in the Gita that if we reach the liberated state, then real service starts. But
Yeah.
devotion,
Real service
Brahma
starts.
Buddha
Yeah.
stage, and then we can actually act freely as a soul.
Yeah.
So how is that devotion before the liberated stage? We have knowledge plus devotion, then liberated, and then somehow real service starts, but devotion is always service. How do you see that devotion before liberation?
Point is that the Gita and Bhagavatam are talking about several stages of liberation. For example, although we said that understanding the difference from spiritual and material, it's liberation. But also, as you mentioned in the 18th chapter, Krishna explains that from that platform, a real liberation actually starts. What does it mean? Jiva Atma cannot be passive. Jiva Atma is always active. So we can be active either through material manifestation or through our spiritual real position. Jiva Atma cannot stay in the status quo. So unless we come to the understanding of difference of matter and spirit, we are forced to act on material platform. But as I mentioned last time, that spiritual being or living being comes to spiritual understanding through two ways. One is conscious endeavor, and one is intuitively. Intuitively means that Paramatma, Krishna, or God as Paramatma or Super Soul is always with us. And we can see, I mentioned this example last time, we can see people who are not formally practitioners of any spirituality, but they have very deep spiritual understanding of the world. And they, in their conduct, they manifest qualities of devotee. How it's possible? Because of intuitive grasping the aspects of absolute truth around us, which is everywhere. So that means through experiences, through observing the nature and, different ways. But unfortunately, this intuitive accumulation of knowledge is not systematic, and mostly it's not sufficient to keep us always on a spiritual platform, and that's the reason why we cannot establish permanent loving relationship with God, but we have, we can say parallel lives. Sometimes we manifest these qualities of spiritual people, sometimes not. But when we systematically approach to accumulation of knowledge or being spiritually educated, that means, I always mention this, that there are three aspects. One is information or philosophy or spiritual understanding. One is the certain qualities which are needed, qualities of heart or character, and also the skills, how to use this knowledge in day-to-day life, we can say. So when we discuss about devotion, it's inherited in us, but it's covered. Therefore, I said intuitively, because it's already in us. Prabhupada several times, not several times, many times mentioned that God consciousness, it's not something superficially, how to say, I don't know a proper English word to explain what I want to say.
Superimposed.
Sorry?
Superimposed.
Yeah, superficially imposed on living being, but it's inherited, it's nature of living being, And spiritual knowledge serves as a tool which removes the coverings. So in that way, even if you are not completely liberated in a knowledge, we can manifest devotional inclinations. But probably they are not, how to say, kako se kaže postojano?
Remain? No?
Huh?
No.
Postojano nije, steadfast.
Steadiness? No?
Yeah, they're not steady. They are like even in the beginner, in a part of Bhakti, can experience pure chanting, but not consistently. Like glimpses, like highlights, but not consistently. Only when we systematically approach to the process of cultivation of spiritual knowledge, then includes understanding how to remove the obstacles and coverings, and then when we come to the platform of steadiness and then bhava, then it starts to flourish in like you start to fly like anything. So this is my understanding. I cannot say that this is just absolute and only understanding, but this is how I understand, and this is my experience also. I try to comment according to my own experiences. So that's the. But yeah, point is that when we become liberated by knowledge, then we start to act on the platform of bhakti. That means loving devotional service. That means that in practical life, that means that we understand how every activity which we do, we can do motivated by love and gratitude to Supreme Personality of Godhead, because we are conscious of Him. We are conscious how abilities which we have, how talents and inspirations are all given by Him, and we stop to pretend it's mine, only mine. And it's amazing situation for which we can be very grateful. And through this gratefulness, we become empowered with more, abilities and inspirations, etc. So it's like that. Možda neko još ima nešto. Izvolite.
Hoćeš na hrvatsko?
Kako hoćeš.
Na engleskom.
Ne, kako slobodno na hrvatsko.
Dobro, ja imam nekoliko pitanja, pa probat ću ih skratiti. Vezano uz dio kad si pričao o simptomima... Čekaj...
Prevešćemo. Je, samo pitanje.
Ok, vezano uz dio kad si pričao o simptomima duše, da je zapravo svjesnost jedan od simptoma da je duša živa i da se identificiramo sa tijelom. I sad dolazim do sljedećeg zaključka da zapravo cijeli ovaj naš život bi na neki način trebao služiti kao priprema za smrt. Ne znam da li sam zagrebala nešto.
Question was that I mentioned that one of the symptoms of Atma is consciousness, and Clara's question is, it seems that actually all of our existence in this lifetime should serve the purpose of preparing for that. And yeah, it is, because Ante Narayana Smriti, in fourth chapter, which is called Transcendental Knowledge, Krishna will explain to Arjuna that the consciousness which we have in the time of death creates our future, our new reality. So consciousness which you have cultivated in past life created your situations now. And I remember after some times of living as a practitioner of Bhakti Yoga and monk in ashram, I met my teacher, biology teacher from primary school, who was a good friend of my father. and he asked me, so you have been traveling to India, what is the main difference between people there and us? And I explained that basically we live as we will never die, and they live being aware that they can die anytime. So obviously it changes the priorities and also the activities which we are doing in life. And of course, in the same time, we cannot, suppress our creativity, because creativity is also part of the soul and part of divine in us, because all of us, we are small God. That means creative impetus is there, so we cannot kill it, we cannot suppress it. But if we do things in life, being purified and empowered by spiritual knowledge, then all of our activities serve to that purpose. Even doing business, even doing family affairs, even doing, recreation, everything can serve to that purpose. And this is the art of living or art of transformation. So through the spiritual knowledge, we are learning how to do this, because Arjuna's idea was to just leave everything behind, go to the forest and just practice cultivation of spiritual knowledge and do some, specific spiritual practices. And Krishna told him, no, this is not the way. You will not achieve the highest perfection of existence or higher consciousness by this. Although it seems logical, isn't it? It seems very logical. But Krishna said, no. This is not the way. And then he directs him. First, you have to act on the platform of duty. We have different duties. Duties which are given by the body which we have, by the roles which we have in this world. Then second level is your duty, being detached from the results. Second level, your duty, being detached and offering results to me. And then fourth level is offering results to me with the love. That means, and we discussed at the beginning of 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it's discussion about tyaga and sannyasa. And we discussed that sannyasa means giving up materialistic activities, and tyaga means giving up attachment to material results. And we concluded that real sannyasa and tyaga is actually the way of Rupa Goswami formulate this with the term yukta vairagya, which means complete vairagya. And the main understanding of this, to understand how everything is related to God, and therefore everything should serve to God's pleasure. This is real vairagya or detachment. And this is not easily I just read a very interesting explanation from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, how often vairagis, or those who are practicing asceticism, are coming to a real challenge when they come to the loving relationship between living being and God, especially in romantic love, which is demonstrated by gopis of Vrindavan. If you practice celibate, if you practice, these are all aspects of yoga practice or asceticism, sometimes you develop aversion to romantic affairs amongst the people, because it's all illusion, whatever. But also you develop fear listening about romantic exchanges between Krishna's eternal associates and Krishna. And very often we become hard-hearted. And idea of spiritual knowledge is to become soft-hearted, not hard-hearted, to become full of love. And how you can be full of love in the same time you have like hard heart, and you become even sometimes cruel towards others by ignoring them or whatever. So these are very important things to understand what is Yukta Vairagya. Yukta Vairagya means that we see everything in relationship with the God. Huh? Ok, otišao. Da, Yukta Vairagya znači da vidimo sve u odnosu s Bogom. To je izuzetno važno. Tako da duhovnost nije negiranje postojanja svega oko nas, već prava duhovnost znači da razumijemo koji je izvor sveg postojanja i na koji način sve može biti povezano s postojanjem. Ok, još si nešto htjela pitati?
Ne znam, ali imaš vremena nešto. Ajde, brzinsko.
Molim, ja ću probati biti kraće.
Puno se nadovezilo sad na ovom predavanju na tu temu, kao da mi fali još nešto malo, pa sam... Znači, mudra duša ne žali ni za živim ni za mrtvim. I sad sam ja to odmah povezala, sad imamo ovaj friški primjer iz novina gdje su ovi u Mostaru poginula cijela obitelj u autu. I sad svi na društvenim mrežama komentiraju, žale i tako dalje. I sad kakav bi bio nekakav pogled iz toga duhovnog kuta, to što je ta cijela obitelj napustila tijelo?
Mislim, to je, kako bih to rekao, ok, kad se dogodi neka tako dramatična situacija, onda još u vijestima bombastično bude eksponirana, onda svi nekako postanu empatični. Ali svaki dan umire neko dijete, nedužno, neko starac, čovjek u najboljim godinama, svaki dan. Danas je umrlo ne znam koliko ljudi od covida, isto vjerojatno. Ako ste slušali vijesti, sigurno su spomenuli toliko zaraženih i toliko umrlih, možda 4, 5, što god već. I njihovim najmilijima to je isto tužno. Bez obzira što je dramatična situacija da je dijete poginulo, da će možda drugo dijete biti invalid, što god već, da se to dogodilo zbog ludila, obijesti i tako dalje, ali mi nemamo kontrolu nad tim. Zapravo, svako umre u trenutku smrti. Mislim da zvuči onako ironično, ali kad dođe smrt, to je kraj. Za ono koje je umro, to je kraj. I za svakog od nas će doći taj trenutak, prije ili kasnije. I naravno da u interakcijama međuljudskim, kad se mi vežemo jedni za druge, onda taj gubitak doživljavamo užasno traumatično. Užasno traumatično. Ali poanta je da Arjuna je izgubio sina, 17-godišnjeg Abhimanyu, u ratu. Njegov brat Bhima je izgubio sina. Arjuna je izgubio 2 sina zapravo. Imao 2 sina. Jedan je bio dječačić kojeg je Ashvatthama zajedno s braćom zaklao na spavanju, na kraju bitke već. To su tragedije s kojima se u ovom svijetu, Dukalama, Ashvatthama, ovaj svijet, na svakom koraku je neko hrana nekom. To je nažalost tako. I duhovno znanje te oplemenjuje sposobnošću da razumiješ da je to tako, ali to ne znači da gubiš empatiju i da nećeš žaliti za onim koji ti je drag, blizak i da nećeš žaliti nad sudbinom onih koji su potlačeni i tako dalje, ali ćeš shvatiti da problem njihovog života ne možeš riješiti tako da samo plačeš za njima, već problem možeš riješiti tako da ti postaneš čista duša i da svojim utjecajem onda transformiraš svjesnost drugih živih bića. Jer jedini način da se živo biće prestane reciklirati, ponovo rađati i umirati je da dostigne duhovnu svjesnost. To je jedini način.
Da, ono što mene tu sad intrigira je ako se sve dešava pod nadzorom Krišne, onda se i to desilo pod nadzorom Krišne, a mi se svi ponašamo kao da se to nije desilo.
Yeah. Even one blade of grass doesn't grow by chance. What to say about such a complex situations as taking birth, dying, but eventually it's not under the direct control of Krishna, but it's under the control of his energies. And these situations are created by us, not by him.
Mislim da na neki način razumijem tvoje pitanje i to je strah od, to je na neki način, to je naš ljudski strah od nepoznatog. Mi smrt mistificiramo. Ono prvo što si rekla, je u principu život priprema za smrt. Da li živimo da se spremimo za smrt? Po meni možda čak i ne toliko to koliko je život u principu u životu, ako se dignemo na neku razinu svijesti, onda prihvatimo da smo, onda se pripremamo to da možemo u svakom trenutku umreti. I da je smrt ono nešto što se može dogoditi sad, za 5 godina, za 55 godina, ovisi kojoj fazi. I to na neki način mi smo stavili taj pritisak da kad ideš iz te logike, da u principu Bog kažnjava. Onda to nema smisla. Onda pitaš, ok, možda je, sad ću reći pod navodnicima, možda je taj čovjek imao, ne znam, takav i takav život, što bi mi rekli onda, aha, možda je zaslužio, ili je pogazio, ne znam, nekog, ono. Onda dolazimo uvijek do pitanja šta je dijete od 3 godine skrivilo, ali u principu ako to kreneš, to nije kazna. To nije kazna za neko djelo, nego jednostavno sastavni dio života.
Priroda stvari, da.
Njihov put je trebao se naći na tome i to je ono, ne znam, ja sad možda sam uzeo tebi reći, ali to je moja, na neki način kad mi je najteže, onda pitam i, ono jedno slovo i, znaš, onda se čovjek potencijalno, znaš, onda se dogodi ovo i, pa da, onda ćemo propast. I šta se dogodi kad propadiš? Znaš, ne ideš dalje, živ si, imaš ruke, nemaš jednu ruku i imaš drugu, znaš, uvijek postoji taj i, samo je nama jako teško se odvojiti od bilo čega. Ako ništa drugo da nam draga osoba ode na vikend negdje, nam je prvo to teško, pa da onda se preseli na 3 godine, pa onda da nam umre, to su gradacije onoga koliko se mi osjećamo kad gubimo nešto. I smrt u principu, ako ju ne gledamo po kaznu, ako ne gledamo ko nešto što dolazi u ovo, s druge strane, s obzirom da nema znanstveno potkrepljene činjenice, mi ju nužno gledamo kao da je to nešto obratno, kao da je nešto. A sad kad si razmišljamo, slušamo, koji je ti dio najljepši dan, kad zaspiš, kad se legneš u krevet i kad lagano zaspiš, možda je to smrt.
Pa je, to je.
Smrt je lijepa.
Privremena smrt, da.
Možda je to prekrasno iskustvo, koji samo, nažalost, nema nikog ko se vratio da nam kaže da je to super, ne? I u principu tako da, evo.
Hvala.
Dobro, neki su kao bili na rubu pa su se vratili.
Neki se sjećaju.
Kažu da su doživjeli božansko svjetlo.
Da.
Nije problem smrt, problem ga raženje.
Zapravo rekao bi Klara, I will say this in English. The purpose of life is not to prepare for death, but to enjoy it. But it also means to prepare for that, because if you look at like this, one of my role models, Smita Krishna Swami, said, "Life is that serious thing, but don't take it so serious."
You never know what seems bad now. That's what you were talking about. Basically, yeah, we all have traumas. Now if we go deep inside, everybody has a problem. Now we have some problem that occurred today, last week, retrograde Mercury, whatever, 6 planets or whatever, and we have all the communication problems, and we are focused on that problem, but there's somebody who has a bigger problem, and as the Tom Hanks said recently, these too shall pass. So everything passes. Like this problem, today's problem, today's bad weather, or it passes.
This is the letter which Yudhishthira received from Krishna. Krishna told him, when it will become the most difficult for you in your life, then open this letter. And then he went towards north, and Draupadi fell down, Arjuna, and then Yudhishthira opened the letter, and it was written, that will also pass.
Piece of people, like everything. They say when you feel beautiful, when you feel like you're on the top of the world, this too shall pass. And you feel down, this too shall pass. So everything will pass, including us.
It's actually like at at the moment of birth, you sign the contract that the death comes.
It's coming.
Yeah.
Soon.
Yes,
Soon.
it's inevitable.
Yeah.
It has to happen, so you have to accept that.
And of course, it's normal to think about that. It's normal to fear about it. And actually, you know, as I said, as I had the experience, not that experience, but.
Ovdje ćemo stati, srdačan pozdrav. Do četvrtka.